Welcome to the Action Network podcast. I am your host, Evan Abrams, and I am joined, as always, by Brandon Anderson for today's Best Bets episode. But before we get to those, we've got a few trends, some talking points, a little roundtable across the league, which we'll give you a few bets on as well. But I will start with a little Thanksgiving action and a few, let's call it some sides and some accessories, a bit of a starter here. So public sides, which we use from Action Network's betting data, which is 51% of tickets or more, are 500 ATS or better every year since 2014 on Thanksgiving, and 11 of the past 12 years. Since 2005, we'd actually had 9 teams close with 74% of tickets or more on Thanksgiving. 9-0 straight up, 9-0 against the spread. Now, we also talk about favorites for a second. Since 2004, favorites on Thanksgiving, 48-9 straight up, 38-19 against the spread. So, Brandon, just to start it off, and I know you're going to get into so many bets and so many things here, but historically, you just kind of follow the crowds here. But any thought on that?
Yeah, I'm really a trend better on Thanksgiving, probably as much as any point in the season. You want the favorite, unless it's Dallas. You want the public side. You want the big favorite, especially. I'm sure you'll have a stat on that when we get there. This is the spot, like everybody and their uncle wants to have a bet on the Thanksgiving game. It's Lions, it's Cowboys every year. You know what's coming. And for once, it's like the one holiday that they treat us right, and we just kind of follow what everybody thinks is going to happen. Seems like it kind of happens on Thanksgiving. So we got a feast of bets today. We're going to go game by game through Thanksgiving and the Black Friday game, kind of separate section here with all these bets at the top. And then we'll get a Sunday later on too, but I'm excited for Thanksgiving football.
Yeah, all 32 teams. We're going to hit them all. We're going to start with Thanksgiving. But let's go through some of these a little bit odd bets that they have on just the Thanksgiving slate. So they've got like highest or lowest scoring team, highest scoring game, biggest blowout, etc. So I'll let you start, and then I can kind of end it with any thoughts I have. But of these kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Why can't I think of the word here? Like anything different, like a bit of a prop bet, let's call it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there is a word. I can't think of the word right now either. It's
exotic, niche, exotics.
There we go.
Exotics.
Yeah, exotic bets, exotics. All right, so I got 2 of these for you. So if you look around, like these are popping more and more. So most books are going to have something like you said, highest or lowest scoring team, biggest blowout. We got like most passing yards on Thanksgiving for a player, most rushing yards, most receiving yards. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So you just kind of have a little fun. Get it, these are pizza money bets, couple dollars. So I got 2 of them for you. Number 1, and I'll kind of make the case for these more later in the episode when we get to these games. Lowest scoring team on Thanksgiving. I like these bets because we only have 6 options here. So it is kind of a limited sample. Give me the Dolphins, the Sunday evening game, or the Thursday evening game, in Green Bay, plus 625, full circle for me. I took the Dolphins before the season as the highest scoring team in the NFL. Has not gone well. It's gotten better lately. Miami looks pretty good, but this is really, if you like this bet, if you like them to be the lowest scoring team, now look, Giants Cowboys is a low total. So that's buying value on the other 4 teams if it's not one of them. It looks wintry in Green Bay. Tua Tagovailoa, 0-4 straight up when it's below 40 degrees, 1-3 against the spread. In 2 of those games, Miami scored 7 and 3 points. So, if it's just a cold, blustery, awful Miami game, close your eyes. You've pictured it. You can see the game. We've watched the game. Maybe that one hits. So, that one is one of my favorites, plus 625. And then I mentioned the yardage ones. Favorite yardage prop is Jared Goff to be the passing leader, Jameson Williams to be the receiving yardage leader. We'll get back to him. And then Josh Jacobs rushing. That one's at 70-1 to hit all 3 of those. So we're probably not going to hit these. There's a reason they're priced so long. But you can have a little fun on Thanksgiving. What do you like on the slate here?
Yeah, it's so funny. You just said lowest scoring Miami was on my list as well. So we are on the same page there. The only other thing I was even thinking about was Green Bay being the highest scoring team, but I don't necessarily think I want to take both sides of that. But at 625 and like 350 or 4-1, maybe you hit one of those bets depending on the outcome. I thought a really fun one, and obviously you could take the money line here, but Chicago at 12-1 to be the highest scoring team I thought was a little interesting. Some weird things can happen. The other thing I like, they have a prop, Zadarius Smith and Micah Parsons to each get a half a sack. It was 4-1 earlier today. We talked about Micah getting to DeVito if he starts, and Zadarius Smith would be a nice story, so I thought that was a fun prop as well.
Yeah, Caleb Williams leads the NFL in sacks also. I actually have literally that exact prop in my notes under those games when we get there. So I like that one as well. I think it's plus 350. We're on the same page on that one too.
Amazing. Great synergy. Let's keep rolling here. So anybody who plays on Black Friday or Thanksgiving, the question is right now, how would you want to invest in those teams? Either it's season awards, futures markets, like what's the right bet to hit right now with those teams playing first before the weekend? I have an angle here, but I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, it's a couple nibble angles here, and I didn't have anything that really stuck out. I still like Travis Kelce to lead the league in receptions. Not many books have that market up, so I don't know if you can find that one. If you like the Giants against the Cowboys playing fewest wins or worst record, that might be a good way to play that one. If the Giants get the win, that kind of opens that market up a little bit. And then another one, I'm really stretching the rules here because there wasn't a name that stuck out on the awards. I want an award for you. Thanksgiving is about thankfulness. So how about we be thankful for Damar Hamlin, healthy and playing football. He's not playing on the games. I'm cheating. He doesn't fit the rules here. J.K. Dobbins looks like he may actually miss a little time with that injury that we saw Monday night. It's down to the quarterbacks. But couldn't it be Damar Hamlin still? He's 50-1 for comeback player of the year. The Bills are possible 1 seed. They're in the mix all the way. He's going to have some moments. How about just like Sunday night is when they play against the Niners. We talked about the game on Sunday night last week. One big play, one big interception, one big fumble recovery in prime time. Couldn't one play get people talking about Damar Hamlin? And all it would take is just a little bit of momentum back into the spotlight again. I think 50-1 for an award. They changed the rules because we didn't give it to him last year. I just think it's too long. So let's be thankful for Damar Hamlin. All right, I cheated, but that's my pick. Who'd you like here?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have like anything really tied to these games specifically, but the one thing I was looking at was the passing yards leader because we do have buys coming up with Lamar and Stroud on buys with them kind of in the mix. So I was going to pull back on them and say, okay, Burrow and Geno makes sense to lead the category, but I thought Stafford at 14-1 and Baker at 23-1, and Baker has a great pass against schedule the rest of the year. I thought were interesting flyers in that category. And the last one, and this is a complete flyer because they've already had their bye, so they're going to play through. You assume Jamar Chase he's I think 3 ahead or so in the receptions TD category. I was going to take a flyer on Kittle. At 17-1. He's 4 back right now. Obviously, San Francisco's in all sorts of flux, but they're going to need to pass the ball. They're up against teams that they're going to need to score points against, and everyone else seems to be a little banged up. So I thought Kittle was an interesting play there.
Yeah, I think on the season leader markets, what I like about both of those, with the passing, yardage, you can make up 200-300 yards in one big game. If you get a really big game where the other quarterback throws for like 180 in a wintry game or something, that market can swing a lot. With the receiving one, I like that Jamar Chase is on a team that might still get shut down at some point, right? If they keep losing a couple more games, he suddenly rolls an ankle. It's like, all right, you're done for the year. Let's see you next year. We'll get you healthy. Like, you need a path to overcome the gap here. Chase's gap is pretty big, but touchdowns, there's not a lot of guys in contention there if it's not him. So I like, you have to find the path for the guy you like, but you're betting against the other guy that's leading too. So I feel like there are paths against the winners there. And then you get the path right for the guy you're betting, then double win there.
Yeah, this time of year, I also think going against the bye is interesting, assuming like some of these teams have one more game to play. All right, Thanksgiving time. Chicago at Detroit. Now, Detroit is listed as a 10-point favorite right now. They would be the biggest favorite for the Lions on Thanksgiving since 1968. And you had mentioned it before. It's not there at the moment, but teams favored by over 10 points are 11-0 against the spread in the wild card era. When it's 10 or more, they're 15-4 ATS since 1980. So still not shabby at all. Chicago, Detroit, what do you like here?
I love the Lions. Lions minus 10. I would like the Lions really anywhere up to about 13 where I think this should be. It did get up to 11 earlier in the week. It's been bet back down a little bit. This is one I mentioned on the look ahead. I still think we're going to get towards 13 because that's some teaser protection. I don't think books want this sitting out there where you can tease it down below the touchdown to start off your weekend. The Bears offense on the road is dead last by DVOA. They're coming off an overtime game. Trends are always bad against those teams. The Lions are the number one pass defense. So you have the worst defense, or the worst offense on the road. There's great defense even without Aiden Hutchins. That's a tough sell for Caleb Williams. As good as he was last week, it's a tough spot for that. Bears run defense down to 30th on the season by DVOA. That is not the matchup you want. Not against the Lions, who are just going to kind of run the ball and control the game like they do. And you mentioned some of the trends. I'm a trends better on Thanksgiving. This is a Thanksgiving trend smash spot. So some trends I've got here. Last 12 Thanksgivings, the Lions have covered 8 out of 12 on Thanksgiving, including 4-1 ATS as favorites. All my favorite trends on Thanksgiving, I exclude Dallas because Dallas breaks all the metrics. We'll get to them in a second. Non-Dallas Thanksgiving favorites, 30-10 against the spread since 2007, 75% covering by almost a touchdown a game. I think this is the game that you've waited all year for, right? This is the one that's on the calendar. You want to win on Thanksgiving. So I think those favorites are taking care of business. Favorites of 7 or more, 19-7 ATS, 73%, again, by almost a touchdown. You mentioned if this gets to 10 and higher, even better. And then public favorites. You said that one already as well. Lions over 70% of the bets right now. Public non-Dallas favorites, 23-5 against the spread since 2007. 82% hit rate, including, from your article, 7-0 when it is 74% spread bet or higher. And the Lions are getting very close to that. I think they could get there by kickoff. Bad spot for Chicago. Coming off the overtime game. Coming off a division game where it's within 3 points. Teams like that, 43% against the spread the following game. And then the same stat you're hearing everywhere from every place because it keeps hitting. Jared Goff indoors with the Lions. 32-10 ATS now in the regular season. 76% hit rate. Since last Thanksgiving, the Lions and Jared Goff have covered 13 out of 15 times indoors. Lions are 9-2 in the first half ATS. The Bears are one of the worst teams ATS in the first half. I think that sets up for Thanksgiving feast. The Lions get out early. They run the ball. They control the game. Lions -10. I think this is an easy one.
Also, what we've heard, Dan Campbell is a straight shooter, and he's said multiple times this week, I believe the Lions have lost 7 straight on Thanksgiving. He's never won on Thanksgiving. Jared Goff has never won on Thanksgiving. Yep. They want to give the guys a break after this, and they want it to be a fun break. So I believe him. I think they're completely motivated. All right, now to the best game on Thanksgiving, and that's a joke. Giants at the Cowboys.
Wait. I got props in these games, too. I got props here.
Mike, go.
I got 2 props in this game. So receiver from each side. Don't worry, no props in the Giants-Cowboys game. So one prop on the Lions. I like Jameson Williams here. I mentioned him at the top in the section where I liked him for receiving leader. So Bears, bottom 5 by DVOA against wide receiver 2s. They play a lot of single high safety, top 5 of the NFL. Last 2 weeks, Jordan Addison, 8 catches, 162 yards. Christian Watson, 4 for 150. That's the sort of style receiver Jameson Williams is, catching those long passes. Both those guys had a pass of 60 or longer. Bears have Jalen Johnson. He can keep Amon-Ra in check, only under 100 yards last year in both games combined. Jameson had a touchdown, a 32-yard catch against the Bears, and now he's stepped up as a better wide receiver 2 there. So you look at his numbers, it's very all over the place. Jameson Williams has 2 games over 120 yards. He has 2 games under 10 yards. So what do you do with that? Well, if you look at the home road splits, it's a little more interesting. 5 road games, 4 targets a game, 2.5 catches, 34 yards. 4 home games, 7 targets a game, 4 catches, 104 yards a game at home, where he is here. He's had a 50-yard catch in all 4 home games this season, 7 of his 8 longest catches at home. So I don't want median outcomes here. I don't want just the traditional over receiving yards or the over longest reception. I want some alts. So these lines are still kind of populating as early in the week, but let me give you some examples here. 70-plus yards, plus 235. He's gone over that mark all 4 home games this year, 79 at least in every game. 100 yards is plus 750. And again, one of those special Thanksgiving bets, Jameson to be the Thanksgiving receiving yards leader. So of those 6 teams, 11-1. if he gets 100 yards, he's going to have a pretty good shot of doing that. So I like that one. And then it won't be at many books, but longest reception. That one's there. I want the alt longest reception. I want the 50-yard catch. I see a plus 950 on that. So I'm sprinkling like quarter units on all of these, just hoping for maybe one or two big Jameson Williams plays. Before I get to the other one, any thoughts on Jameson here?
Yeah, the only thing I have to say is he's not, Dan Campbell isn't afraid to spread it around. And he's also not going to take his foot off the pedal. So however you get to those numbers, they're not going to just go to the run to end the game. It's like he's trying to get higher in the college football playoff rankings. It's really on it. Honestly, what it feels like every week. But what's your other bet?
Yeah, other one is similar. You're going to hear it from last week. It's the DJ Moore receptions escalator. A little bit, not quite as aggressive this time. But let's start with just the main bet. Over 4.5 receptions. The exact same place it was last week. I don't think books have adjusted yet. Last week, we got 7+ receptions plus 350. He got 7 catches again on 7 targets again. 2 weeks with Thomas Brown, exact same output. First 10 weeks of the season, 8.3 ADOT for DJ Moore, under 20 yards after the catch per game. His first game with Thomas Brown, under 1 ADOT and 56 yak. Last week, 3.6 ADOT, so a little bit higher. Got a couple big plays late. 81 yards after the catch. So under Shane Waldron, he's caught 61% of his passes. With Thomas Brown running the offense, he's got everything. 14 targets, 14 catches. It's not even that he's getting way more looks, he's getting way better looks. So he's getting these receptions. I don't need the yards necessarily, I need receptions. The Lions, even though their pass defense is really good, have allowed the most receptions to wide receivers in the NFL. They also play the most man coverage, so that's good for yak receivers like DJ Moore. So I don't think this line's gone far enough yet. Hasn't moved really. So I like the over 4.5, minus 114. I'll play that. A little less aggressive on the escalator. I think the Lions defense is a little better against like downfield wide receiver 1 would be more the type that you want to hit here. So not quite as much as I liked against the Vikings, but 7 catches is plus 320. Again, we've hit that on the nose, both Thomas Brown games. So of course I'm going to play that. 9+, I got to touch it. It's 11-1. DJ Moore made us a lot of money last week, so we can afford it. But I think mostly on just the over 4.5 and a little bit at the 7+ at 320.
Yeah, to me, this is a little more script dependent than Jameson. If the Chicago goes up, they're going to run the ball more. This is they're trailing and they need to move the ball downfield. And that's exactly what ended up happening last week, and it worked. All right. Finally, moving on to the next game here. Giants at Dallas. So Dallas won and covered on Thanksgiving last year. They haven't won and covered consecutive games on Thanksgiving since 2008, 2009 behind Tony Romo. Give me more here, Brandon.
Yeah, I'm giving you not the Cowboys. It is a Thanksgiving tradition to bet against the Cowboys. I lost on it last year. I ain't doing it 2 years in a row like you said. Give me the Giants +4, +3.5 if it's all you can get. And I'm going to take the money line too. Like, this game stinks. But it's Thanksgiving afternoon. It's the Cowboys. Of course we're watching it. So of course we're betting it. Total is 37.5 and falling. We're getting some combination. We don't know who of Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock. We don't know who's playing. It's all bad. If it's all bad, why can't it be the less other bad team that's +4 instead of the other bad team? They're both bottom 10 DVOA offense and defense. Maybe the only thing good on either team is Brandon Aubrey, right? The kicker and the special teams for Dallas. Actually, one thing that is actually pretty good here, the Giants have run the football really well over the last 6 weeks. Tyrone Tracy's been really good. I looked at some of his props. He can be good in the passing game here too. Dallas is dead last against running back receiving. They're bottom 5 against running backs and rushing the football. Reverse home road splits here too. The Cowboys have been awful at home this season. Giants defense has been much better on the road. I just think the Giants have just as good of a shot here. I had the Micah Parsons sack note in here as well. I don't really mind actually if it's not Tommy DeVito. I think I like the Giants better if it's Drew Lock. Sorry to Tommy, but I actually feel like I might upgrade a little bit if we get that. He's been on the injury report this week. And then just the trend. Cowboys on Thanksgiving have covered 2 of the last 13 Thanksgivings. They're failing to cover by 9 points a game in that stretch. So if the line's 3.5 or 4, I got to take the money line too. Dallas defense has allowed at least 25 points in 5 straight since 2018. Teams like that are 18 and 33 ATS, 35% the next game. The Giants have failed to cover 6 in a row. Teams with at least a 5-game ATS losing streak, 59% ATS. Giants aren't this bad. This is just kind of a buy low spot and a sell any Cowboys on Thanksgiving ever. So Giants to cover, and then I see a plus 180 on the money line. I'll split my bet, go half and half that way too.
This is a bit of an embarrassment factor, probably. Like, the Giants absolutely crushed last week, had no points at the half. It was looking terrible. And then on the other side, Dallas had one of the best victories of the season, a really high moment. So this is very NFL for the Giants to come out and beat Dallas the following week on a short week on Thanksgiving. So let's see it happen. All right, no props, so let's move on to the next game. Miami at Green Bay. The story here is going to be the weather. Right now, average temperature at Lambeau Thursday night expected to be about 26 degrees. Wind has actually gone up now, like 10 to 12 miles an hour. So what's the angle here with Dolphins Pack?
Yeah, I like the Packers a lot here. Packers -3, I'll take. If you need to get the 3.5, I don't mind it. I think the Packers win this one relatively comfortably. We're kind of pricing these teams as equals right now, as these like, hey, you know who could be sneaky in the playoffs? The Packers if they got in, or the Dolphins if they got in. I'm not sure I see them quite that way yet. Dolphins on the season with Tua healthy, even in just those games, still around league average offensively, still outside top 10 by DVOA passing. I know you're seeing lots of those EPA and success metrics over the last few weeks. All right, well, who are they playing? They dropped 34 on the Raiders and on the Patriots. Terrible defenses. DVOA, I like a little better sometimes than EPA or success rate, especially in small samples, because DVOA takes opponent into account. Those other stats don't do that necessarily. So I think Miami against a better opponent here, against the Packers, tougher task here. Packers offense is elite, not Miami this year. It's Green Bay. They're top 5 DVOA, top 5 offense, top 5 passing, top 5 running. They're the team here. And you mentioned the wintry stuff we talked about at the top. If it's cold and blustery, what do you want to do? Run the football. Miami has not run well all season long. That's just not a thing this team does well. Green Bay has run great. Green Bay has won multiple games this year just running the football. With Malik Willis handing the ball, it doesn't matter, just run the football. Dolphins are bottom 10 run defense. They're bottom 5 on first down, which I think is especially bad because the Packers can just run early where they're especially good. 2nd and 5, 3rd and 2. We're just moving the chains, grinding it up. You can picture the game happening already. Again, non-Dallas favorites on Thanksgiving, 30 and 10 ATS, 75%. Thanksgiving night favorites, 13 and 4 all-time, 77%. This could maybe end up a public side too. It's the Packers at home after all. Mike McDaniel, 36% against the spread against teams above 500. So I like the Packers here. I do not think these are equal teams on an upswing. I think the Packers are the better side. So I'm happy to get them at the key number 3 if you can grab it.
All right, and you have one prop left for us with this game, and the hint here with this prop. I don't know if anyone saw Tua's Twitter today. Tyreek Hill's Twitter today, but he was actually talking about this guy in general. So, what's your prop?
Yeah, I didn't love the tweet, honestly, because of that. But I'm going to still play Jonnu Smith's over 40.5 receiving yards. Jonnu Smith, the new wide receiver 1 in Miami, right? It's supposed to be Tyreek Hill and then maybe Jalen Waddle. And for a while, we were playing the A-Chain train. We're getting his receiver props. Now it's suddenly Jonnu Smith. The last 2 weeks, 15 catches, 188 yards, and 3 scores, 19 targets. Lots of short stuff, getting those kind of A-Chan looks that he was getting. Packers against tight ends. We talked about this last week with the George Kittle thing. Bottom 5 by DVOA for Packers defensively. Bottom 5 against short passes. They've allowed 42 yards or more to 6 of 11 tight ends. And these are not great guys. These are, again, Brenton Strange, Josh Wiley, Colby Parkinson. George Kittle got there. 682 and a touchdown, even with Brandon Allen. So the tight ends are cooking here. Jonnu's been great lately. Last 7 games, he's had 45 yards all but one of those games. He's averaging 5.5 catches, 65 yards in that stretch. So over the 40.5 here, a little nibble on 80 plus yards. He's done that 3 of the last 6 games. That's at plus 650. So if you want a Dolphins side, I like Jonnu Smith's over receiving yards.
He's just a really athletic target taking the Mike Gesicki role in Miami that seems to be going very well. All right. Black Friday time, Raiders at the Chiefs. This line was 13. Now it's about 12, 12 and a half. The craziest stat of them all when you talk about this number is the fact that the Chiefs, as a favorite of 6 points or more, are 6-0 straight up this year and 0-5-1 against the spread in those games. As a favorite of above a full touchdown, 4-0 straight up, 0-4 against the spread. What are you doing with these Chiefs that seem to win every week by a point, 2 or 3?
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this game here, so I'm not going to take a side. The number is kind of right in that range where it's definitely feels too many, but I don't want to bet on the Raiders. We don't know who's playing quarterback. The Chiefs have lost 5 straight games against the spread right now. It's a pass for me, but I got to give you something for Black Friday. So let's go with Travis Kelce. Give me some Travis Kelce receiving overs. Can't give you a line yet because they're not up. But here's the case. You'll have to make your bet. Watch the app. I'll put mine in. Raiders also bottom 5 against tight ends. They've allowed the 3rd most fantasy tight end points just in the last month. Jonnu Smith, our guy we just talked about, 6 catches, 101 yards, and 2 scores. That was last week against these Raiders. Mike Gesicki, 100 yards and 2 scores. Travis Kelce, hey, look, that's our guy. 10 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. So that's a touchdown for each of those guys, 5 between them. They're getting 90, 100, 101 yards. Travis Kelce, we've talked about this with the receptions thing. Since Rashee Rice went out, he's been a machine. 8 games since then, he's averaging 7.5 catches, 62.5 yards. So he's had at least 6 catches, at least 62 yards in 6 of those 8 games. Last week, his lines were at 5.5 receptions, 58.5 receiving yards. I'd take an over on both of those if we got them. So something like 6 catches, 60 yards. If you want to add in a touchdown, maybe kind of get creative. But I think this sets up well for a nice Travis Kelce game. And, otherwise I'm probably following our guys at BBOC and watching some college football on Friday as well.
Maybe you get some combination Kelce and Bowers.
Ooh, I like that.
200 plus, things like that. That's what I'm going to be looking for.
A little passing the torch, the one tight end to the next generation.
Well, because at the end, you can close your eyes and say to yourself, you're going to see the graphic with both of them on both sides and them having great games and that being like the discussion. So that's where my head's going. Also, I'll say this before we move on. Please check out actionnetwork.com. Brandon and I both have Thanksgiving articles with tons of information. So make sure you check all of those out before the games on Thursday and Friday. And speaking of, before we move on here, a quick announcement. Action Network is running back our annual Black Friday sale, offering our best price of the year on a year-long Action Pro subscription. So if you still aren't a Pro subscriber, visit actionnetwork.com/Black Friday to get $40 off a year of Pro and receive instant access to all the picks, all the projections from Brandon Anderson to Chris Raybon to Stuckey, our whole Action Network team. That's actionnetwork.com/Black Friday for the best price of the year on Action Pro. All right, we're going to move on here. Moving past Thursday, moving past Friday, we're going to do a little bit of a roundtable before our games for the weekend, just a few discussion points here. So, number 1, 5 teams right now are clearly ahead of the field in terms of the Super Bowl odds. So we're looking to pick a long shot. Now, Detroit, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Buffalo are really the 5 teams at the top. So I'll let you go first. What's an angle here on a team kind of below that?
Yeah, I had to get creative here. I'm not looking for like team number 6 or number 7. Hi, you've met me before. I'm looking for long shot if we want a long shot here. So you're going to remember this better than me, Evan. Before the season, we always have the stat going into the year that the last like 10 Super Bowl winners in a row have started the year at like plus 1,200 or shorter, right?
Nailed it.
There were 5 of those teams this year. I believe you just named 4 of them. I'll take the 5th one. Give me the 49ers at 80-1 to win the Super Bowl. Now, look, I don't think the Niners are going to make the playoffs. They're like 80, 90% to miss the playoffs right now. There's a really good chance that the bet loses. Duh, it's 80-1. I already know that that's possible. What I like is if I'm wrong, if the Niners start winning games, I like them in Buffalo this week. Don't love the blizzard that's apparently coming, all the lake snow effect snow. But if they get that win, get a couple easier games after that. I believe it's the Rams and the Bears at home. They get some momentum. We know how good the Niners can be. If the Niners actually get into the playoffs, it's because they started to figure it out again. It's because this offense started to look itself again. And at that point, you're going to want a taste of the 49ers, who, by the way, if they get in, probably won the division. That's their most likely path. So they're probably getting at least a home game in the first round. Suddenly now, you got Niners probably playing like the Lions in the second round. We saw that game last year. We know what they can do and put up some points in a hurry there. Niners, Eagles potentially. If the Niners actually get to the playoffs, you want this ticket. You will want an 80-1 shot at this much offensive firepower, hopefully getting healthy by then. I think that's the play. If you want a long shot, go real long down the board and take a team that we knew is good before the season, maybe possibly getting back there again. Who do you like here?
All right, I took 2 NFC and 2 AFC just for fun. The 2 NFC I liked, and I kind of wanted a longer road team, a team who's going to start on the road, a bit of longer odds. Washington, to me, at 55-1 is interesting after the bad loss. They are top 15 in all advanced defensive metrics since week 7. So they are getting better even after that Dallas game. And a pretty easy remaining schedule and a bye, which I do like late in the season. The other NFC team was San Francisco. So we are on the exact same page there. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. We've been talking about this for literally 6 weeks that we like the Seattle angle the best, maybe Arizona. Now, Arizona's defense looks absolutely incredible lately, which has been a bit of a change there. But San Francisco's price is the right one to take right now. Now, the AFC one's much more fun. I think a shot at Denver right now at around 60-1 is pretty interesting. If they do make the playoffs, and I know no rookie's ever done the Super Bowl thing, we've talked about that, but same defensive stuff as Washington. Good coaching, schedule not as easy, but they do also have to bye after the Monday Night Football game. I think we all agree they should win against Cleveland, which is another win in their category. Now, the last one I'll mention, this is the fun one, and I implore everyone to put $5 on this whenever you see it, but I like the Colts at 300-1. They have the easiest schedule in the NFL remaining right now at under 30% win percentage for their remaining opponents. They are outside the picture, but if you don't like Houston, which we've talked about for weeks now, as we've seen faults there, and the Colts, which we all like this weekend in New England, 300-1 or the money line in New England, you're basically kind of rolling on the same path right now, but that price to me is just way too long. So those are the bets. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, what you like here, too, is I can't say I can really find a path where the Colts or the Broncos are holding the Lombardi at the end of the year, but you don't need that to happen for this to be a good bet. Can we get to the AFC Championship game? Can we get to a Final Four with the 300-1 ticket, with a long shot ticket? Because now we can add some hedges. Now we have a valuable ticket that we can do something with. Not if you get like 12-1 now or something like that. You're too limited then. You get one of these crazy long shots here, get into the playoffs, win a home game. Now you're cooking. Now you have real possibilities. So that's what I like there. I don't know if I see Anthony Richardson and Bo Nix dueling in the AFC Championship, but if one of them gets there, then you have a path and you have a valuable ticket.
Yeah, I'm just looking for Wonka's ticket right now. All right. Philly and Baltimore, it's the game of the weekend, so let's talk a few categories inside this game. I feel like you have to start with Saquon. So right now, he is plus 150 to get to 2,000 rushing yards. He is 4-1 to get 2,106, which would break the record. And even if you're looking at the MVP market, Josh Allen plus 150, Lamar 250, Goff at 7-1 with Saquon, Mahomes at 8-1. That's basically the entire market at the moment. Do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about this a little bit on Sunday night. You're buying high right now. If you want a piece of the Saquon buzz, you are buying after he just had one of the best primetime running games ever that everybody watched everywhere, 300 scrimmage yards. It's just, even if I like it, it's against every principle in me to invest right now when the price is all plummeted. It was 6,500-1 MVP down to 90% discount on the odds for MVP. I can't do that personally. As far as like the 2,000 yards, the rushing record, 2,000 yards, basically we're looking at like 100 yards per game the rest of the way. Well, I got to start with this matchup. I don't love the matchup against Baltimore. Baltimore is a pretty good run defense. I think actually it's a good opportunity to maybe invest in some Derrick Henry stock. We talked about that with OPOY. We saw last year, much to my chagrin, on Christmas, Lamar versus Purdy. Kind of get the head-to-head. Team win went Baltimore's way. So too did the MVP factor. Could maybe we get an OPOY thing here if the Ravens beat the Eagles? Could that sway Derrick Henry with the team win with the head-to-head against Saquon? I don't know. Could possibly play in. I think this bet is going to be a thing, the 2,000 yards. So I wouldn't mind maybe playing the under if you want an angle on it. And then maybe next week, come back on the over. Because guess who they play next week? The Panthers. He might break the record next week alone. He might just do all that against the Panthers. So that's my thoughts on the game. Otherwise, I'm not playing a side. This is like a Super Bowl. I just want to watch and enjoy. My one side I want here, my one bet I want to make, no lines yet. Give me A.J. Brown overs. The Ravens are dead last against wide receiver 1 by DVOA. We saw Ladd McConkey really good against them. I think A.J. Brown is going to give nightmares against that secondary. So that's what I want in the game. I just hope it's a great game. What are you playing or looking at here with Saquon or anything else?
Yeah, this game's tough for me. I would probably lean just wanting to take the Eagles at the 3.5. I feel like, both teams are on a ridiculous stretch right now. There's no ups, there's no downs. This is just a really, really great game between two great teams. The one stat that scares the poop out of me is Lamar has never faced Sirianni. I believe the number is 37-7 straight up for Lamar when he hasn't faced a head coach before. So preparing for something you haven't seen is very, very difficult, but I'll be the sucker and look at the 3. Final category before we talk about your Sunday bets. Jaden versus Bo Nix. The rookie of the year has just become fascinating. At right now, market has Jaden Daniels at -200, Bo Nix +160, and then the two down the liners are Brock Bowers at 42-1, and then Caleb at 50-1. Any quick thoughts there?
I try to talk myself into Bowers maybe making a run at this thing with both quarterbacks sort of falling off, but I don't know. We've never seen a tight end win it before. It's a quarterback's world. It's really hard to see, even if the top two guys fall off, maybe Caleb Williams got hot at the end, or maybe Drake May looks really good. Like, who's giving it to a tight end from the Raiders that nobody's really watching anyway? So I don't know if I can get there. I think this might be a spot to still buy a little bit on Jaden Daniels. I think actually this week against Tennessee, maybe could be a bit of a get-right game for Washington. All the conversation right now is about the Cliff, and I think that maybe is a little bit lazy narrative. I've said it too, so I'm giving myself the same thing. I think actually Washington's defense metrics have been slipping a little the last few weeks by looking at schedule and strength of opponent. And their offense is just running into some tough defenses. It's a rookie quarterback facing some tough defenses, which the Titans are as well, but I think it could be a spot for Washington to kind of get things right again. Tennessee coming off of a big upset division win. I think Washington still kind of moves in the right direction. And Jaden Daniels, I think just any football analyst watching games knows who the better player is here long term. And I think at the end of the day, for rookie of the year, a lot of times, voters want to vote for the guy that's going to be the guy that is the better player at the end of the career, right? You don't need Bo Nix to get your rookie of the year award. You want Jaden, Bo Nix, great. We're happy for you. You're doing good. Maybe the Broncos make the playoffs. Jaden Daniels is a star. You want a star to be crowned rookie of the year. And I honestly think that matters to voters. So I think it's a good spot to invest in him still.
Yeah, if you were going to take Bowers, you might as well just bet him a ton of props against Kansas City in a high-profile game that everyone's going to be watching. Yeah. And that's the way you invest there. All right. Let's get into the Sunday best bet lightning round here. So your first game is Rams at Saints. The stat I'm going to give you, which is going to roll right into probably what you're looking at here. Derek Carr has actually faced Sean McVay 3 times in his NFL career. He is 0-3 against the spread, failing to cover the spread by 8 points per game. Are you going with that?
I am going with it. I like the Rams here a lot. -2.5 at the Saints. Hopefully you can get it below the key number there, 3, but I'll take the 3 if you need it. By season-long numbers, this should be pretty even teams, right? Rams by DVOA 20th, Saints 18th. Rams offense 14th, Saints 16th. Defense 23 and 22. I think those numbers are wrong. I think those numbers are right for the season long, but these teams are 2 ships passing the night. The Saints had that great early offense. The line is a mess now. Your receivers are Cedric Wilson, MVS, and a guy named Mason Tipton, whose name I had to look up for this segment. They were number 1 defensively against wide receiver 1. That's Marshawn Lattimore. He's gone now. The defense lost Dennis Allen. Not a great head coach, but pretty good defensively. I know they're kind of on this honeymoon thing with Darren Rizzi. That was Atlanta and Cleveland. I think the Rams are a much better team here. Saints' run defense has been dead last by DVOA the last 6 weeks. Sean McVay teams get credit for passing. The run game is what determines how McVay teams do. And I think being able to run here really sets them up well. The Rams are going the other direction. Offensive line finally healthy after a rough start to the year. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua healthy, looking good again. Top 5 passing offense. We talked about Jared Verse and Brandon Fisk, the young defensive front. This defense didn't look good against Philly. That's fine. A lot of defenses haven't looked good against Philly. It's a tough team to play. They've been near top 10 run and pass defense this last 6 weeks or so. And like you said, Derek Carr, that's part of why I like this matchup for the Rams. Verse and Fisk and that pass rush, they're going to get after Derek Carr. And we know that he's not good under pressure. So I think it's a really good buy low, sell high spot. The Saints are coming off of 2 wins under Rizzi. The Rams lost to the Eagles. I'm not that worried about it. Teams that just won by 17 points or more as underdogs of 7 or less. That's the Saints here. 64, 116, and 3 against the spread. 36% cover rate. Teams that just won by 17 against teams that lost by 17, that's the Rams. They are 39% against the spread. And then Sean McVay off a loss, 59% as well. So Saints are the better first half team. If it does get to 3 or past, I don't mind pivoting to just a second half Rams play, but we're still getting the -2.5 here. Give me Rams -2.5 below the key number.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I don't necessarily think the bye even helps the Saints. So
No.
I wouldn't even look at that as a positive. If anything, starting slow could be a negative. All right, next game, Bucks, Panthers. My stat here is simple. Baker Mayfield has faced all 32 teams in his NFL career. He is 3-0 straight up or better against one. That is the Carolina Panthers. He's had decent success here. What are you going with?
Yeah, back to Old Faithful here. We're going to fade the Panthers first half. I looked at just the first half over. Panthers first half overs are 10-1 on the season, best in the NFL. Bucks 8-3. Both these defenses are way worse in the first half, but that line's 23, 23.5. Why not just take the Bucks team total over 13.5? I do think Bryce Young's getting better. I think the Panthers probably will score. Who cares? I know the Bucks are going to score. Let me just play that angle. I think the Bucks offense is going to do some nasty things to this Panthers defense. Liam Cohen offense, my man, has been just skiing it up all season long. You lose Chris Godwin, you lose some offensive line. Doesn't matter. They just keep scoring points. The Panthers are second to last defense by DVOA, bottom 3 run and pass. Tampa on the season is a number 7 offense. I sure did not see that coming. In fact, what I really didn't see coming is Bucky Irving in the run game has been one of the best in the NFL the last month or so. And the Panthers' run defense is about as bad as anybody. So I think Bucky Irving could have a big game as well. And then the same stat we've been telling you as we played this bet a bunch of times, the Panthers are now 3-7 on the season. When they win, the stat's no good. When they lose, they've allowed 20 points or more in every first half of those 7 losses. Average score at halftime, 23.5 to 7. They've allowed at least 3 touchdowns every one of those losses, except last week to the Chiefs somehow, who settled for 2 red zone field goals and got 20 points anyway. So I like the over first half. We've played this one a few times. 13.5. All we need is 2 touchdowns. We're probably going to get 3. So just give me Tampa's first half team total over.
Even though it's a divisional game, I still feel like Carolina is coming off their Super Bowl. So I feel like there's going to be some sort of, okay, let's play Tampa Bay after trying to, face the Chiefs last week. All right. Houston, Jacksonville. I thought this was fascinating. Now, obviously, Houston 10-1 first half ATS entering last week. Kind of, crap the bet against the Titans. But as coach of the Texans, D'Amico Ryans 22-9 first half ATS. Stroud 22-7. So is that going to be your angle here?
It is. I'm going first half Texans. It just dipped below the key numbers, so -2.5 in Jacksonville. I still don't believe in the Texans. I just believe in less in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's offense just coming off the bye week. Like you said, another one where I don't know if it helped. Before the bye week, they scored 6 points one game and 7 points one game. Now, granted, that was against 2 of the top 3 defenses by DVOA, Minnesota and Detroit. Well, guess what? Guess who's the third one of the top 3? It's Houston. Sucks to suck for Jacksonville playing this set of defenses here. But Jacksonville's defense itself is dead last in the league. I think even Houston can score on them at least early, where Bobby Slowick gets the first 15 plays scripted. That's gone well. Somehow, Doug Peterson funeral escalator hit, but didn't hit for Doug Peterson. He's still coaching. He's 2-5 ATS after the bye week. So it's not a good spot for him out of the bye either. In fact, this one applied to the Rams as well. Road favorites of under 6 against a team coming off a bye week. So they're rested. you're still a hefty road favorite. 28, 15, and 2 against the spread, 65% cover rate. I don't mind the full game here. Texans have dominated this rivalry. They've won 6 straight in Jacksonville. They've won 11 of 13 against Jacksonville. I prefer the first half because of the stat that you mentioned. Texans 10-2 in the first half, ATS. Jaguars 4-7. Texans second half spread 2-10. I don't really want Texans second half. I don't need the back door. I don't need any of that jazz moraz happening. Give me the Texans blowout or whatever they do. I think if it goes well for Houston, it probably is going to go well early for them. So Texans first half -2.5.
Hopefully a get-right game for their defense, which got kind of torched by Will Levis last week. Well, I don't know if we know who's starting for Jacksonville at the moment with a TBD on the screen, so hopefully some sort of get-right spot. All right, last game, Cardinals, Vikings. What do you got here?
I swore these bets off. I said I'd never do a first quarter bet again.
Welcome back.
But the Cardinals and the Vikings both owe us first quarter money. Give me the first quarter total over 7.5 points. Look, our bets were good last week. The Raiders scored a touchdown a minute into the second quarter. We got screwed on that one. The Vikings scored a touchdown the first play of the second quarter. They fumble on the 2 on the opening drive. The stats still line up here. Vikings pass defense falling back a little bit outside the top 10 in the last 6 weeks. Kyler, I think, can maybe handle the pressure from Brian Flores a little bit, create some offense. Cardinals defense, they're improved. They're much better on the road. We talked about that last week. Much worse on the road as they are here. So I think actually these offenses can find some answers. And look, I didn't want a first quarter bet, but these are the top 2 offenses in the NFL by a first quarter DVOA. I have to do it again. That's what I played last week. Cardinals, at least 1 touchdown in 7 of 11 first quarters. They're averaging 5.7 first quarter points a game. The Vikings, 10 touchdowns in 11 first quarters. They're averaging 7.5 points a game. They've scored points in all but 2 first quarters. One of them last week, unfortunately, for the reasons we talked about. I think we get some points here. Interesting, too. Shop around. Some books have this at 9.5, some at 7.5 for the exact same juice. Now, I think they're basically like, look, if you get over 7, you probably got to 10. That's how it works, right? 7 plus a field goal. Not necessarily. How about a safety? How about 3 field goals? How about a missed extra point? We'll take the free points. You're giving me 2 points. I'm taking them. Over 7.5 points in the first quarter. Cardinals, Vikings, you owe us some money.
There is absolutely no sweat like a first quarter sweat when no one else cares what is going on in the game and you just see that clock ticking down. And of course, the teams don't care what's going on either because they're like, let's just take it to the second quarter and you're screaming your bloody head off. But all right, that is the Sunday slate. Now you've got a look ahead to Week 14. I can't even believe I'm saying Week 14 at this point. But yes, Week 14. What's the game you're looking at?
Yeah, well, one last bet for the podcast, a feast of bets today. Week 14, going back to a game we just bet on 2 weeks ago, not even. Browns Steelers, give me the under 40.5. We literally just had this game. It closed Thursday night at 36.5. We're 4 points higher. Why are we 4 points higher? We watched the game. Now look, I know there was 27 points in the last 12 minutes. Before that, it was 10-6 with 12 minutes left. It was the best under read you could have until the snow came in. And there's a whole thing called snowvers. When the snow happens, you think it's going to go low. You get high scoring. Hopefully no snow in this game. And I think we're set up pretty well. We just saw this game play out. Pittsburgh's defense is really good. Highsmith is back. TJ Watt looks great. Myles Garrett, I think, is maybe one of TJ Watt's top competitions. Browns defense played really well against the Steelers last game until the last few minutes. And then you mentioned Week 14. Starting Week 14 forward, I've got a bunch of trends that pop for division games, and you like a lot of unders here. In Week 14 for division games, home favorite of under 7 points, 58% to the under. Total of 40 to 47, 56% to the under. Outdoor game with a little bit of wind, 56% to the under. Not huge trends, but just all nudging you in that direction. And then just look at the numbers. Browns games are averaging about 42 points a game, 37 or below over half of the time for them. Steelers games are averaging under 40 a game, 37 or below about half the time for them as well. So 40.5, I think that's too high. This only goes one direction. Quite frankly, I think I might smell a mine shaft here. So let's get into the 40.5. Let's get some CLV, and we might come back and add a little bit later to this one too.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if this one didn't close under that number. And I just
Agreed.
feel like it's a number that no one is looking at with a week ahead. So I think it's a good investment. All right, that's it. I feel like we've given you at least 20 to 25 different bets in under an hour here. A great Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Week 13 slate. That has been the Best Bets podcast here from the Action Network. I am Evan Abrams. That is Brandon Anderson. We will be back next week with the Week 14 action. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your sides. Enjoy your mains. Have a good one. And good betting out there.